Okay, from Hamilton, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first semi in the works for several years. This is money to set up and finally some legwork to line up guests for the show. My name is Rene Goche, and we are broadcasting from my studio/bunker in my home somewhere in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you like what you're seeing, I hope that you will like this video, subscribe to this channel. Yes, I do plan on doing my next broadcast next week at the same time, live. The purpose of this broadcast is to work out all the bugs in the system, sort out all the infrastructure, and get some lessons learned from this first experience. But that doesn't mean that today's show is on the world of pipe band by the name of band. We are going to talk a bit about the band. It's from the Ontario Circuit. She's a graduate of Simon Fraser University on a piping scholarship. We are going to talk about her experience with the Grade 2 Robert Malcolm Memorial Pipe Band and her World Championship wins with the Milton to you, the humble viewer. Who am I? As I said, I'm Rene Goche. I'm a drummer who has played with pipe bands over the past 15 years, including 3 street bands and 3 competition bands. Snare, carry the mace as a drum major. And I eventually became the drum major of the Guelph Pipe Band after the 2022 season, who also completed solo as a drum. It became others for inexplicable reasons. And that is why I came to the recent decision to stop drumming and focus on drum majoring after the 2022 season with the Spirit of Ontario. But how did I get here? I have been a blogger for several years. I have been writing about pipe band life or the past, doing radio, combined with the knowledge I gained doing television productions. So the experience has always been there. But having the means to do something like this takes resources, something I really didn't have until now. So now I have some cameras, a switcher, an audio board, which I've had for a couple years. And this is just the beginning. PBL-TV will be a weekly program for me. This has always wanted to develop television show. But there was a lot, and it's going to. But this show will not require editing because it's recorded, it's semi-live, and this is going to be published right after I've that will not minimize the work. There's much to be done if I'm subscribed to this channel. And on this video, if you have clicked the bell to get alerts on the latest content, and at some point consider a membership to this channel. We won't be asking for any more than $2 a month. Your $2 a month will help us provide better content, better guests, and eventually better equipment. The outreach is potentially enormous, and I know there are thousands of you. Let us know if you want to super chat in the comments below, and I thank you for hearing me out. And now let's really start the show, and that means the news. Okay, here we go. So we begin with the Western U.S., where the Phoenix Highland Games took place in Arizona. We are still waiting for those results. These results will have to be reported in the next week. And in the eastern U.S., the Southeast Florida Highland Games were held in Plantation, Florida, and those results are not available at this time as well. This is one of those bugs that needs to be worked out, and we are taking every effort possible to ensure that all efforts are reported. We're making it need to be worked out, and we are taking every effort possible to ensure that all results are reported in a timely manner. So as we start this venture, these relationships are in the process of being built. Once we have the results, we'll get the updated standings on both. The major highlight in this schedule is the change in venue for the Kingsville Games, being moved from Lakeside Park to the Ty Cobb Field at Jack Miner Migratory Bird Sanctuary, just north of the original site. Again, the organizing committee has pulled in some considerable incentives for competitors to participate in this event. How we got from there to here is a topic of future discussion, and we will have that discussion on this show in the near future. In the American Midwest, competitors are encouraged to start submitting their entries for band and solo events, which will start in May in St. Louis, Missouri. And now, let's meet our guest. Carol Smith is the pipe major of the Spirit of Ontario Pipe Band, and she is for the Spirit of Ontario. Rumble. Now, the Spirit of Ontario serves a special purpose, and we will go into greater detail on that. Carol is no stranger to the rigors of world-class competition. She has completed on the world stage over the duration of her piping career with the Milton Optimus Pipe Band in Ontario, and with a pipe on our show. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, Renee. Thanks so much for having me. Can you hear everything okay?
Thank you. We're still working out the bugs here, and I know you've been sitting here watching me burn. So, why don't you the Spirit of Ontario Pipe Band?
Sorry, it cut out. I couldn't hear your question. Can you say it again?
A little bit about the Spirit of Ontario Pipe Band.
Yeah. The Spirit of Ontario Pipe Band is actually really cool. It brings together beginner pipers from a whole bunch of different bands in the area, just starting to learn how to compete. So we compete at a grade 5 level, and we mainly draw on pipers from St. Andrew's Pipe Band in Mississauga, and some of the beginner Guelph Pipe Band players that aren't quite ready for the grade 4 band yet. And we have a few cadet bands that get them ready and use.
Yeah, I lost you there for a second. You mentioned the cadet pipe, the cadets, and what cadet course specifically are involved with the band here?
There's a few of them in the area that we get through some of the instructors from the Guelph Pipe Band. So some of the ones that the pipe major and pipe sergeant work with, then they feed them into our band before they get ready to play in the other higher grade bands.
So this is basically Tyler Bridge and
That's right.
Dylan Whitmore, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Sorry about that. The connection's been a little wonky lately. I'm going to have to there's some more lessons learned there. Okay, so how exactly did you start piping? I mean, how old were you when you started?
I was 8 when I started to play. My whole family is from Scotland,
Yes.
so I'm the first one not to be born there. And my dad plays the bagpipes. So he got me started and got me into it.
Didn't get that. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. So my
So
whole
you
family
started
is Scottish.
you started at 8. Yes. And yes,
Yep.
your whole family was involved.
Is from
So how many
Scotland.
pipers would you say you have in your family here?
So my dad plays, and I play,
Yes.
and now my daughter plays as well. So we have 3 generations of
Yes.
pipers.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's a future. And every time someone steps in, it's always you always want to prepare for the future. Absolutely. Now, speaking of future, you eventually got went on to play with the Milton Optimist Pipe Band,
Yeah, so I
and
started with
you won
them.
a
Yeah, so I played with them during my teens. And we went to Scotland
yes,
3 times, I think. And so we competed at the juvenile
right,
level, and we competed in grade 3. So I think we won in juvenile and we won in grade 3, and we came second one of the years that we went as well. So it was a great experience to have.
definitely a great experience, especially when you're at a young age. I mean,
Yeah,
how many kids in their teens from Ontario get to go out to Scotland and win? I mean, that's huge. And
yeah,
nobody
that's
talks
really
enough
cool.
about this. Do you know how far I had to dig to find out when you won? I mean,
So when
those
did I
2
win?
wins
I
that you
can't
had.
remember. Yeah,
Well,
when was that?
it's it's right here.
Oh, there you
You won in
go. Okay,
1994 with the juveniles, and you won the world championship grade 3 in 1997.
cool. I couldn't tell you the years, so
So
thanks for
yeah,
telling me.
yeah, I had to dig really hard to get that. I mean, I had it's tough to find that kind of history. I mean, you hear about all the grade 1 wins, and you hear about the who won champion of champions. Oh yeah, but what about the other grades? What about if I didn't, you wouldn't have even it wouldn't have even passed your mind if you knew that City of Dunedin Pipe Band won grade 2 a couple years ago. It wouldn't even phase on you.
Yeah.
Yet a world championship is a world championship, no matter how you slice it. And that's got to be an experience in itself.
Yeah, it's quite intimidating to go there and play in Scotland against all the Scottish bands, and yeah, be, there with all the judges and on the field, but a great experience to have.
Well, yeah, especially when it's like hockey here.
Mm.
I mean, it's you live, eat, sleep, breathe it. Just like out in Scotland, you eat, sleep, breathe pipe band.
It's true. Yeah.
So I'm a bit curious because I've never seen one. What makes a juvenile band a juvenile band?
Oh, so everyone except the instructor has to be under 18. And so you can have a pipe major, and your drum sergeant can be older than 18, but a juvenile band, everybody else has to be under 18.
So yeah, everybody has to be under 18, correct?
That's right. Yeah, except the instructors.
Okay. Okay. So wouldn't you say that Spirit of Ontario? Well, I guess I kind of stopped it from being a juvenile band, but technically they could have been a juvenile band. That might.
Well, we had yeah, pretty close. We did have a couple pipers that were over 18, and one or two drummers as well. But most of them were kids and beginners, which was so great to see.
It definitely is. Definitely is. Now, you went to Simon Fraser University on a piping scholarship.
I did, yes.
How does someone get a piping scholarship?
Uh,
That's what I'm curious about.
yeah, you apply, fly out and audition. And because it wasn't as easy to have recordings back then, so
Right.
they had to know how I played. Um, so yeah, I remember flying out west and then having to go play for them, and then I got accepted. And then, so to get the scholarship, you had to obviously play with their band, but you also
Right.
had to be involved in teaching. And that's how you kind of earned your scholarship, was taught the juvenile bands and the beginner bands that they had as well.
Hmm. And then you played with the Robert Malcolm Memorial Band, grade 2 level.
Yeah, yeah,
And how many times did you go out to Scotland with them?
at the university. So that was the SFU kind of grade 2 band.
Right.
So yeah.
How many times did you go out to Scotland with them?
Um, we did not go to Scotland during the time that I was there.
That's
We went to Maxville, and we competed out west, like on the circuit there.
Mhm.
But during my time at SFU, the grade 2 band did not go to Scotland.
Hmm. I thought they would have gone out to Scotland a few times. I know I did some digging on the Robert Malcolm Memorial Band, and I did see that they did play at the Worlds a few times. Just surprised that you didn't go there with them. I mean, was it? They're only going to let you go twice.
I guess, I don't know. But during my years of studying at SFU, um, that's when I was in the band before I moved back to Ontario. And during that time, they
Right.
just happened not to go. They were doing a bit of restructuring as well. So our
Mhm.
band didn't go, but obviously the grade ones went every year,
Well, of course they did,
and they
and
did
they were
well.
very successful for a certain streak of time. So
Yes, they
yeah,
were.
so what was it like to be a part of that?
It was so exciting because you're around all these great players, and so you can learn so much from them. And they were always doing
Mhm.
a whole bunch of amazing opportunities and shows. I remember one time the whole organization went down, and we were the halftime show for the Seattle Seahawks game.
Oh yeah.
So we had to learn how to march in a few different formations, playing the pipes. So that was kind of fun.
It wasn't
And
exactly OSU, right?
no, we had a lot of work to do. I remember practicing in the SFU parking lot, so that we could get
I
it right.
find it
But
odd to. I kind of find it odd for a pipe band to be doing formations. I mean,
they were they weren't very fancy formations, but
okay,
um, yeah, but it was still, a bit of back and forth, and so it was really fun. and we did a show with some Japanese taiko drummers downtown
Mhm.
Vancouver. So the
Wow.
music there was really interesting.
Oh yeah.
So lots of
Exciting.
great musicians that helped really to push you.
Really, that is something else. That really is. So, so you've been to Scotland only twice.
We went. I went 3 times with the Milton Optimist band.
Okay, so you went 3 times, and
Yeah.
so what was it like? What's it like being out there?
Mhm.
I'm sure any. I'm sure. I mean, it's everybody, every pipe band, well, every pipers, every drummers, every band's dream to go out to Scotland, and it's got to be a different atmosphere altogether.
It is. It definitely is. You go usually about a week before the World Championships. Maybe play on board just to kind of see what other bands you're up against.
Mhm.
And back then we were staying at Strathclyde University, so you're staying in the dorm. Really band like 24/7. So you have band practices during the day. You do a bit social stuff with meals. Uh, it's really a great experience. And you're playing outside no matter what the weather. And they tend to get a lot more rain there. So you have to get used to playing in
Oh,
that kind of
obviously,
weather as well.
obviously, lots of rain out there. I mean, no wonder the grass is green. They don't call it the
Yeah,
Glasgow green for nothing
that's
until
right.
everybody
But they've
goes
had,
stepping all over it.
yeah, then it gets kind of messy. But yeah, it's the experience. So you get a change in temperature, a change in moisture.
Mhm.
And so you
Obviously, you
have
got to
to kind
adjust
of,
the pipes. You gotta adjust everything to prepare for the weather.
that's right. Yeah.
And what's it like for the drummers?
Um, I don't know. Yeah, no, same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
The moisture and the temperature definitely takes a toll on the instrument as well, right?
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
learning to fill your sticks when when it's raining and
Yeah, and you got to have it, and you got to have the drum head covered as much as you can, of course.
yeah.
How often did you find the drummers covering their heads?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of rain, so they were definitely be very cautious with that.
Hmm. So, what was the top band the year you went out there?
The top band in
The
grade
first
one,
time you went out there, what was the first band? The top band.
hanging out with the band, because they were really rocking when we were out there, and we tended to play a lot of their music as well. So they were kind of they were the ones that tended to win round about the time that I was going to Scotland.
Hmm, interesting. Okay. So, how would
Mhm.
you compare your very first experience being out in Scotland with the last time you were there?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so the first time you definitely don't know what to expect. And so we did a bit of some of the Highland games before the Worlds, so that again we could get used to the weather. We could get used to playing against the bands out there that we had never played with before. And we sat in on some band practices for the Shots band when we were out there too.
Oh,
So
shots in my
it was a
head.
lot of, yeah, it was a lot of learning
Mhm.
the first time we went. And then the second time, we didn't do as much of that because we had more experience out there, but
Of
we
course.
still played one of the Highland games before the Worlds,
Were there
again, to get acclimatized.
were there a lot of the big bands that came up to you guys and said, "Hey, can I help you with this? Can I help you with that?"
Yeah, they were really great about coming out to help us, like pipers and drummers, because we were all so young.
Right.
So you were having a bunch of kids there. We had great instructors, great pipe major, great drum
Right.
sergeant. But it's always good to have the extra hands around. So we definitely got so much support, not just from the Canadian bands, but from the Scottish bands as well.
That's terrific. And
Hmm.
you've obviously had a very unique experience compared with a lot of others in the Ontario circuit.
Having traveled to Scotland and being part of a
Winning.
junior band and oh
Winning.
wait. Yeah, that was a great experience as well. And to come back and there was a bit of press about it at the
Right.
time because something had happened very often. So the team especially, it was really exciting to be part of.
So now you are a chiropractor
I am.
and you're working out in Oakville, Ontario.
Yes, that's where my practice is.
And where did you get your degree? Did you get your doctorate from Simon Fraser University or did you get it from elsewhere?
No, so I did my first degree at Simon Fraser. I did
Right.
my bachelor's in psychology. And then when I came back to Ontario, that was to do chiropractic.
Yes.
Then I actually kind of went and virtually went back and did a master's through UBC. Yeah, and so now I teach chiropractic and I work as a chiropractor in Oakville. And I actually treat a lot of pipe band people because of my experience in pipe bands and knowing the
Mhm.
instrument and the toll that it takes on your body. You can help people that have like repetitive strain type injuries that are really common in different musicians.
Right.
So it's
What
been a nice niche to be part of.
What do you most often see with, say, a piper?
Yeah, so with pipers, it's a lot of forearm strain. So you're going to feel there'll be restrictions or tightness kind of in the elbow, and that can affect the movement of the fingers with the different
Mhm.
doubling kind of stuff. So the tight muscle can entrap the nerve, and so that can lead to less function. So we have to work on positioning on the pipes so that they're not compressing the joint or getting tight muscles to free up the mechanics so they can better.
Mhm. Obviously, you get lower back issues with drummers.
Yes, drummers tend to be low back issues. Yeah. And now with the new harnesses, you're seeing it a little bit, but there used to be a lot of shoulder stuff.
Mhm.
But the new harnesses that distribute the weight a bit better, it's not as bad up there. It's still a little bit, but yeah, low back definitely for drummers.
As long as you're not, it depends on how you're marching and you're not twisting too much. I mean, a guy when I was a bass drummer, I mean, if you needed to see what was in front of you, you kind of needed to turn a little bit so you can look ahead, so you're not running into the piper in front of you.
Yeah, that's important.
Not that didn't happen. It did a couple times for me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I mean the biggest challenge for carrying a bass drum is trying to look over the drum. And oh yeah, especially in counter marches where you're trying not to run into somebody when they're trying to turn around. I mean, yeah, and definitely lower back. I mean, as long and especially when it's windy, it just
Ah.
yes, because the wind's actually pushing on the drum, and you're trying to keep the drum in position. So yeah, I do run into lower back issues now and then, but
Well,
it
call me.
eventually. Well, Carol, it's been wonderful to hear from you. I really appreciate you coming out and doing me such a favor and trying to get this thing off the ground. And I couldn't think of a better guest to start this off with than you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you, Renee. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
That was Carol Smith, pipe major of the Spirit of Ontario Pipe Band and piper with the Grade 3 Guelph Pipe Band. And when we come back, we are going to go final take. We'll be right back. Well, once again, thanks to Carol for joining us. And now it's time for my final take. Andrew Burdoff, the editor of Pipes Drums magazine, presented a most profound essay in his magazine entitled The Price of Everything. It's no secret that to live our pipe band lives, there is a price tag that continually rises with the difficulty of the competition. Some bands are good for the money and some bands aren't. I won't go into details on that. So the question does come of how we are to sustain the pipe band life as the required means make it more and more unreachable. How does a band or an association help that piper or drummer who shows amazing talent but doesn't have the money to cultivate and sustain it? How can we let such talent go away simply because that musician does not have the money to keep going with it? We lose far too many talented people that way. And of course, Andrew cites not just the personal costs of the pipe band life, he cites the cost of the uniforms and other equipment. I mean, for example, I paid more than $2,000 to get myself and my son, a piper, our own kilts. And let's face it, they don't come cheap. And the money to cover the costs are either from the supporting communities or they come from the band members themselves. The higher the level, the greater the share in those expenses. To bring this into perspective, I'm going to tell you how much I have paid when I did the complete tour, less the North Lanark Games on the Ontario circuit, the busiest in North America. I have 4 contests that are local to me and 4 in which I have to travel to and stay a night or 2 or even 3, depending on where it is. The reason why we want to be there the night before is because the bands typically want to have a practice to prepare for the next day. So there's that first night. And then when the whole thing is done, there's a second night to stay because you're too tired to even go back home and the trip is too long to drive those hours depending on where you're coming from. And the hotel stays, they are only part of the cost of living the pipe band life. Where are you going to eat? Hotels don't have stoves. You can't live on snacks you buy from Walmart. And do you really want something from the microwave? How are you going to pay for that trip as well? You could split it with a bandmate, but you can't split it if you are traveling as a family, which I do. I have 2 sons, one of which is a great piper. So for a family, splitting the cost among bandmates is out of the question. And what if there are dues to pay a band and you have a family? Would that band take into account, or would they let the costs add up and force the person to pay not just for himself, but for the other family members playing? How does that sustain a future in the competitive world? What about the endless fundraising with certain bands? The peer pressure alone of ponying up can make the whole thing unsustainable for the working family. So how much did I pay for that one season? Over that whole season? Including my dues, I paid almost $5,000 Canadian for the privilege of playing with my band and traveling with my family. And I was lucky to have that kind of money to pay for that. But the same cannot be said for the average Canadian family. Andrew Bordoff succinctly said, "Today, if you are not at least an upper middle class income bracket, you probably won't be able to afford what we do." In Canada, ice hockey tends to be an expensive proposition for the people who can least afford it. The same can be said for the pipe band life, and it is time we all started taking notice. After all, letting the next top piper or drummer slip through our fingers because he can't afford to play at the level of his own competence is the worst travesty we can do to the future of the pipe band life. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this show, don't forget to like it, subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell, and we will see you next week. I'm Rene Gauthier. Bye for now.